I don't remember when the forest started feeling wrong. That's what scares me the most. There was no clear moment, no sudden change, no sound that announced it. It was gradual, quiet, like rot spreading beneath bark. One step at a time, something shifted, and I didn't notice until it was already too late. I came here to walk. That's what I told myself. To clear my head. To escape the noise of everything else. The trail was marked, the path visible, the trees spaced enough that sunlight still reached the ground. Birds were singing. Insects hummed. Everything looked alive in the normal way. But even then, something felt delayed. The sounds didn't match my movements. When I stopped, the forest didn't. When I walked, it didn't react. It was like the world around me was slightly out of sync, as if I were hearing an echo of a place that existed a few seconds ago. I ignored it. People always ignore the first warning. The deeper I walked, the thicker the trees became. The light thinned out, stretched into long pale lines that barely touched the ground. The air grew heavy. Not humid, heavy, like breathing through fabric. That's when I realized I hadn't heard a bird in a while. No wind through the leaves, no insects, no distant movement. Just my footsteps, too loud, too clear. I stopped walking. The sound of my steps didn't stop right away. It continued for half a second longer, as if the forest needed time to notice I wasn't moving anymore. That's when I felt it. The sensation of being watched doesn't come from the eyes. It comes from the back of your neck, from that ancient part of your brain that recognizes a predator before you ever see it. Except this didn't feel like one thing watching me. It felt like everything was. Trees don't usually feel close. They're tall, yes, but distant, vertical, separate. Here they leaned inward. Not enough to touch, but enough to narrow the space between them. Their branches overlapped like fingers interlocking above me, blocking out the sky. I checked my phone. No signal, no GPS. The compass spun uselessly, never settling. I laughed quietly to myself, nervous. The kind of laugh you use to convince yourself you're still in control. That laugh died fast, because the forest repeated it. Not exactly. It was lower, slower, like something trying to remember how laughter works. I turned around. The trail behind me was gone, not hidden. Not hard to see, gone. Where there should have been a clear path, there was only undergrowth, thick, old, untouched, moss-covered rocks and roots tangled together like they'd been there for decades. I stood there for a long time, staring, trying to convince myself I was mistaken, that I had simply stepped off the trail without realizing it. But the forest doesn't erase paths by accident. I chose a direction and started walking. Slowly at first, carefully. I kept my eyes forward, then up, then down. Every tree looked the same. Every step felt wrong, like I was walking deeper into a place that didn't want depth. That's when I noticed the trees were too evenly spaced. Forests aren't organized. They're chaotic, messy, random. This wasn't random. Every tree stood just far enough apart that I could walk between them without brushing against bark. Every trunk was straight, tall, almost identical in width, like they'd been placed there. I reached out and touched one. The bark was warm. Not sun-warmed, alive-warm. I pulled my hand back immediately. My fingers tingled, numb and burning at the same time. That's when I heard my name. Not shouted, whispered, from everywhere. I spun in circles, heart hammering, trying to locate the sound. The forest didn't respond. It just stood there, patient. Then I saw something between the trees. At first, I thought it was another person. That hope lasted less than a second. It was tall. Too tall. Its shape was wrong, stretched vertically like a shadow pulled too far. Its limbs were thin and long, bending at angles that made my stomach twist. It didn't move like a person walking. It drifted. Its face. I can't describe its face. Every time I try, my mind slides away from it, like it refuses to hold the memory. I only remember the eyes. Too many. Not clustered. Spread out. As if the forest itself was looking at me through that thing. I ran. Branches clawed at my arms. Roots grabbed at my ankles. The ground sloped downward, then upward, then flattened again without logic. I tripped, fell, scrambled back up, my breath tearing at my throat. The sounds followed me. Not footsteps. Breathing, slow, deep, matching my rhythm. When I stopped, it stopped. When I ran, it ran. I burst into a clearing. The trees ended abruptly, forming a perfect circle around an open space. The ground was bare dirt, packed down hard. In the center stood a tree unlike the others. It was massive, ancient. Its bark was split and cracked, exposing pale wood beneath that looked disturbingly like bone. Carvings covered its trunk. Names, hundreds of them. Some fresh. Some so old they'd nearly grown back into the tree. I found mine. I don't remember carving it. I don't remember coming here before. But it was there. Below it, someone had written a date. Tomorrow. The ground beneath the tree was littered with objects. Shoes, backpacks, phones, pieces of clothing. Some new, some decayed beyond recognition. I understood then. The forest doesn't hunt, it keeps. The trees around the clearing leaned inward. The air thickened, pressing against my chest. The breathing sound surrounded me now, no longer pretending to come from one place. I backed away. The ground shifted. Roots rose from the dirt, wrapping around my ankles, my wrists, my torso. They weren't rough. They were smooth, warm, pulsing faintly. The tall shape emerged from between the trees, closer now. Its surface rippled, like bark trying to remember flesh. "You stayed too long," it said. Not aloud. Inside. I screamed until my throat tore. I don't know how I escaped. I don't remember breaking free. I don't remember running again. I only remember waking up at the edge of the forest, gasping, covered in dirt and blood that wasn't all mine. People said I was lucky. They said forests can be dangerous. They were wrong. I still hear it at night. The breathing. The whisper of leaves forming my name. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see trees where there shouldn't be any. And sometimes I wake up with dirt under my fingernails. Like I've been digging, or like the forest is still holding on, waiting for me to come back, because forests don't forget. And once they learn the shape of you, they never let it go.
I don't remember deciding to come back here. It's like the place itself pulled me in. The gate, rusted and groaning, hung open just enough for one person. Above it, a faded sign, peeling and weather-beaten, still promised, "Welcome, the fun never ends." A lie. The fun ended a long time ago. The air inside felt heavy, like the whole park was holding its breath, waiting. It smelled of decay, of wet rust and rotting leaves. But underneath it all was something else. A cloying, sickly, sweet scent, like cotton candy left out in the rain for 20 years. It stuck to the back of my throat. Then, a sound, a slow, grinding creak that made the hairs on my arms stand up. The carousel. It was turning, all by itself. No music, just the rhythmic groan of metal on metal. The painted horses, with their chipped paint and faded glory, rose and fell in a silent, ghostly dance. I reached out and touched one. It was warm. The wood felt almost like skin. Their painted smiles were frozen in eternal joy, but their eyes were just dark, empty holes, staring into nothing. That's when I heard it. A child's laughter, echoing not around me, but inside my head. A high, playful giggle that sent a shiver down my spine. And then a whisper, clear as day. "You came back." In perfect, horrifying unison, every single horse on the carousel turned its head to stare directly at me. The painted smiles didn't change, but the empty eyes were now fixed on me. Any sane person would have run, screamed and scrambled back out the gate, but I couldn't. It was like my feet were glued to the cracked pavement. I walked deeper into the park. I don't know why I headed for the miniature train ride, the Wonder Express. Its bright red paint was now a dull, flaking brown. I stepped into one of the small carriages, the worn vinyl seat cold against my legs. The moment I sat down, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The carriage lurched, and the train plunged into a dark tunnel. Total blackness. The rhythmic clack-clack of the wheels on the track was the only sound. Then, The lights inside flickered on, strobing erratically in those brief, flashing moments of light. I saw things, horrible things, broken toys hanging from meat hooks screwed into the tunnel ceiling, a teddy bear with its stuffing ripped out, a doll with a cracked porcelain face. They swung back and forth in the train's wake, and then I saw him sitting on the seat directly across from me, a child. I couldn't make out a face, it was just a blur in the flickering light, but I knew he was looking at me. His voice, another whisper that seemed to bypass my ears and go straight into my brain, was soft and full of sorrow. "You promised to play with me." The train screeched to a halt, throwing me forward. The lights came on fully, humming with a steady, buzzing glow. The seat opposite me was empty. The child was gone. But on the floor, where his feet would have been, was a small, sticky plastic hand, the kind you get from a vending machine. It seemed to pulse with a faint warmth. Shaking, I stumbled out of the train and found myself in front of the funhouse, specifically the Hall of Mirrors. Against my better judgment, I went inside. My reflection greeted me, then another, and another, stretching into infinity, but they weren't right. As I walked, my reflections began to twist. One grew impossibly tall and thin, another's face melted like wax. My smile became a jagged, snarling grin. They were all me, but they were all wrong. Then, one of them wasn't me. Behind my reflection, a new figure appeared. It was tall, lanky, made of what looked like blue felt, with button eyes, and a wide smile stitched across its face with thick black yarn. It tilted its head, its movements jerky and unnatural. Its voice was a low, raspy sound like sandpaper on wood. "You grew up," it said, its stitched smile stretching wider. "But you still like to play." And with that, every mirror in the hall shattered at once. A million shards of glass rained down, and in their falling fragments, I saw a memory. A memory I had buried so deep I thought it was gone forever. A little boy, me, being dragged into this very park by men in white coats. I was screaming, fighting, crying. It wasn't a place of fun, it was a prison. I ran, I sprinted out of the funhouse, the memory chasing me, and didn't stop until I reached the center of the park. It was a large domed building that used to be the main arcade. Now, it was a tomb. The floor was covered, ankle-deep in a sea of broken toys, thousands of them. Dolls with missing eyes, action figures with snapped limbs, toy cars with crushed roofs. In the exact center of the room, sitting on a small, clear patch of floor, was a single object, a child's cassette tape recorder, a bright yellow one, just like the one I used to have. My hand trembled as I reached down and pressed the play button. A voice crackled to life from the tiny speaker. A child's voice. My voice. I didn't make it out. My younger self said, his voice strained with fear. "Don't trust the toys. They remember. You left me here." A raspy voice whispered right behind me. It was the blue figure. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The voice had come from everywhere at once. And then, the toys on the floor began to move. A doll's head swiveled to look at me. A plastic soldier began to crawl, dragging its broken body across the floor. They were all coming towards me, a slow, scraping, crawling tide of plastic and fabric and forgotten things. That's when it all came back. Not in flashes, but in one terrible, complete memory. The research, the experiments. They brought children here. I was one of them. I escaped, but the others didn't. They were left behind, and abandoned toys. Don't forget the children who played with them. I'm recording this now. I made it back to the train tunnel. I don't know how. The laughter is everywhere, a constant chorus in my head. The toys are coming. I can hear them scraping along the tracks. If you find this, if you ever hear my voice, don't come looking for me. Don't come to this park. It doesn't want visitors. It wants its toys back, and I think I never really left. I'm just another one of them now.